Good
Morning.
morning.
I can't believe you're doing this so early in the morning. I'm so sorry.
No worries. It's okay. Usually I have my host and my other co-host, but I assume they are still asleep, but I'm here.
You're here.
So
That's all we need. It's all good.
yes, everything is all good. Thank you so much for your time. I know it's early out there,
No,
but
you're welcome.
welcome to Sister Soul Sessions Live. My name is Brandy. I go by B, but this is season 3, episode 13. No, I'm sorry, episode 14. And can you just introduce yourself briefly to our guests?
Yes, so my name is Liz O'Riordan. I am a consultant breast surgeon in the UK who was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2015. And then it came back locally in 2018 and 2023. And when I was forced to retire, I now write and talk and do podcasts to kind of explain breast cancer and improve cancer care based on my experiences.
Oh my God. So I watched a lot of your reels, super educating, a lot of information that I didn't know as I'm currently going through my process. But I just had a few questions for you. I was just going to ask, can you tell us a bit about your journey as both not only a surgeon, but as well as a survivor?
Yeah, so I never checked my breasts. I never thought it would happen to me. I had no family history. I was fit, I was a triathlete, and I'd had a couple of cysts, kind of really painful lumps a couple of years ago. And I came out the shower one morning and I just noticed a lump in my left cleavage. And I thought it just looks like a cyst. It was small and round. I wasn't worried. I just had a normal mammogram about 6 months before. But it was my mum who said, look, just go and get it checked out just in case. So I went along and I didn't want to be seen in my own hospital because I just thought it was nothing, but I didn't want my team talking about me. So I went to a hospital just down the road where I'd worked as a trainee, where my husband worked as a doctor. So the woman who trained me to be a surgeon was looking at me. Mammogram was normal, but we did an ultrasound and I looked at the screen and I knew it was cancer because it's my job. I knew it was cancer. I knew I was young. I knew it was big. I knew in that moment I would need chemo. I'd need a mastectomy. I had a pretty good idea what my chance of being alive in 10 years was. All of that information, whereas you're normally drip fed it. And that was the start of an incredible journey to see what it's actually like to have breast cancer and realize I wasn't the expert I thought I was.
No, and I definitely appreciate you sharing that. That must be tough.
Yeah.
It must be tough because even so, I am high risk for breast cancer. I'm only 39. Here in the United States, it is women of color are just high risk in general. Higher rates for us here in the States.
Yeah.
And when I go see my oncologist, all I remember her saying is, "Oh my God, there's so many cysts. There's so many
Yeah.
cysts." And I'm just like, well, could you tell me if I'm going to be okay? So I'm just slowly going through the process myself as far as cycles of ultrasounds and mammograms
Yeah.
and things of that sort.
So it's tough. So breast cysts don't increase your risk for getting breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And they are very common in your late 30s, 40s. And I think it's because the hormones in your body are changing. You're getting ready to enter the menopause. The breasts realize they're probably not going to be breastfeeding again. So the tissue is changing from dense breast tissue to kind of fatty tissue. And your breast can suddenly feel really painful and really lumpy. And I've had women who would literally come back every 3 months. I've got another big lump. Can you just make sure it's not cancer and drain it? And we're just in and out, yeah, fine, in you go. Very, very rarely you can see cancer cells inside the wall of a cyst. Very, very rarely. But I tell anyone, if you are a breast cysty person, it's just going to be that thing. You find another one, you get it checked, you get it drained, and you just keep doing that. And it will eventually settle down when you reach the menopause. But it's really scary.
It is. It's a very scary process. And most definitely thank you for sharing that. My next question was going to be, what were some of your biggest challenges you faced as a patient and didn't expect as being a surgeon?
Oh, gosh. Letting go of control. I'm a breast surgeon. I'm a type A personality. I don't like change. I like to be in control of everything. That's what I do as a surgeon. And I was trying to tell my own surgeon where to put the scar and what stitches to use. And she had to say, stop it. Let me look after you. And I think I was just so scared of what might happen because I've looked after women younger than me who've died. I've seen the bad of breast cancer. Now, the chances of it happening to me is small. The chance of it happening to all of us is small, but I still had that knowledge in my head. And I think a large part of me was still in denial. Even now, having had it 3 times, it's not really happening. I found chemo hard. This is going to sound crazy. I was weirdly excited is the wrong word, weirdly curious to see what chemo might be like, what I might look like losing my hair. It's weird. But it's nothing about cancer makes sense. But I was like nosy. I want to know what it's like. And then I really didn't want to know what it was like at all. And I was terrible at asking for help because I knew chemo was meant to make you feel terrible. So I sat at home feeling terrible, not complaining. And I got told off by my nurse, why didn't you call us after a couple of days? Well, I didn't think I was meant to, because I thought it was meant to make me feel ill. And it was learning to be a patient. And one thing I found really hard was deciding whether to have a reconstruction or not. I've got small breasts and I needed a mastectomy. And a lot of the clothes I wore at work were kind of V-neck dresses. And if I wore a prosthetic, because the prosthetics are really full cut bras, so you can't wear a low V-neck because you'll see the bra cup holding the prosthetic. And I felt guilty that vanity was the reason I had an implant. And I'm a breast surgeon and I do reconstructions, and I tell my patients vanity is a very good reason, but I found it really, really hard. So much.
Do you believe in chemo alternatives?
Such as
Instead of getting radiation, chemo like in a pill form, chemo in an IV form. Do you believe in alternative ways other than radiation?
no. So my next book coming out in January, called The Cancer Roadmap, is explaining what cancer is, why we get it, why it's treated in the mainstream medical field, and why alternative treatments don't work. Everything we do to you as a breast cancer patient is based on tens or hundreds of trials looking at hundreds of thousands of women to prove that all these techniques work for most people. They are safe. We know what the right dose is. We know how to handle the side effects. We know from your cancer what your risk of recurrence is and what the benefit of these things are. We know they can have horrible side effects. We don't give them lightly. They are your best chance for a cure after surgery. The problem, and you've then got the field of complementary medicine. So there are people who are using acupuncture and homeopathy and taking supplements to maybe help with the side effects. And we never know whether they actually do, because there's a wellness phenomenon. If you start taking a supplement, you may start to feel better and eat better and exercise more. And actually, it's all of that that's helping, not the $50 you are spending on a supplement. But we know if you do not have surgery or chemo or radiotherapy when it's recommended, you are 6 times more likely to die. There are studies that show that. Yes, radiotherapy isn't nice, but it's safe. Chemotherapy isn't nice, but we're not saying medicine is amazing. We're saving all these women, because that doesn't make headlines.
Yeah,
And there
absolutely.
are so many Facebook groups of people trying alternative clinics and juicing and diets, and it doesn't work. And what you don't see, because they're right at the very bottom of the reviews, is the people who died after spending tens of thousands of dollars. But the problem is that they're sold on testimonials. My aunt went, and she went for 3 weeks, and now she's cancer-free, and it's amazing. And there was a woman who went viral, who went to this clinic in Arizona for this new form of chemotherapy, and oh my goodness, she's cancer-free. Well, she had a proper chemo first, and yes, that might have shrunk it, and yes, 5 weeks down the line, the cancer can shrink, but it can still come back. She's not cured. That's one testimonial of one woman with no evidence of this clinic run by 2 doctors who've lost their license. But people will see that and think, oh, hey, she did it, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
Elle Macpherson didn't have chemo, so I'm not going to have chemo. And women are going to die because of the trickle-down effect of these testimonials from clinics. And I think, especially in America, I know how expensive medical treatment can be. It can be $1 million. And I know these alternative treatments said, well, they're really cheap. In the UK, they're really expensive.
Yes.
If they worked, your doctor would recommend them to you. There is no alternative medicine. There's medicine and there's everything else. So I feel really strongly about this. I don't criticize anyone who wants to go down that route, who believes it's going to treat them. But I've looked after the people or the relatives of who've lost people, and people are making money off us because we're vulnerable and we want certainty and hope. And I can't promise that as a doctor, because cancer's a sneaky sword.
It really is. And it goes undetected sometimes. And you're right, but ultimately I feel like it could be a vanity thing as well. I know here in the United States, it could be a vanity thing because, of course, we see patients or loved ones who go through chemo, their hair fall
Yeah,
out, they lose their eyebrows, things like that. So the first thing they think is there has to be another
yeah,
way, so I don't lose my hair
yeah. And
or I
that's really
don't get
common.
sick.
One of the first things my patients said is, I don't want to lose my hair. And it's it. But chemotherapy works by killing cells that are growing really, really quickly. And
Mhm.
your cancer is growing much quicker than the other cells in your body. But there are cells in your body that are growing, like your hair, like your nails, like your skin, like the lining of your mouth. So that's why you get the side effects. It's almost proof it's working. It does recover. It does come back. There are cold capping machines that you can now use to try and keep up to half of your hair. We are getting better at helping you keep it. And it's hard when you're suddenly told you have cancer and you might need to lose a breast and you're going to lose your libido and you're going to lose your hair and everything that makes you feel feminine. It's like, yeah, no, sorry, we've got to do this. It's really, really hard. And you have that discussion with your oncologist about the pros and the cons and the benefits. And if you feel, I don't want to take that chance to stop my cancer coming back because I can't bear the thought of losing my hair, that's absolutely fine. But if it does come back, can you live with yourself because you decided not to have chemo? The problem is, chemo doesn't work for everybody. My cancer's come back twice locally despite it. There's no way of knowing it will definitely work for you. There are no easy answers.
Mm.
But I think it's being really honest with your oncologist and saying, this is what I'm scared of, can you help? And helping weigh up life, quantity of life over quality of life.
You know what, and you brought up a good point. It is having those I guess, realistic expectations with your oncologist and just communicating with them, hey, these are my concerns. These are what matter most to me. What
Yeah,
can you do about that? But it's also being receptive of the information that's given back
yeah,
to you from your
yeah,
oncologist. I know from my personal experience, for me, it was listen, if the cysts are bothering you that much, because I go by body and I go by like what I see her facial expression is, and she always looks overwhelmed. So I'm like, well, listen, if me having all of these cysts in my breast, if it bothers you that much,
yeah,
you can take them out. How do you feel about that? I'm not against it. I just want to be healthy. And I always tell
yeah,
my oncologist that whatever it is that you have to do to be sure that I'm here for my children, have
yeah,
at it. If I have to save up for that, if whatever the case may be, do what you have to do to be sure that I'm happy
yeah,
and be sure that
yeah.
I'll be. Oh, so we do have a question here. It states, morning, I have breast cysts, which occasionally are painful, but I'm scared.
Have it drained. Yeah.
Okay.
So I imagine breast cysts are like little balloons full of water. And what normally happens is they fill up when you're about to have a period. And once you stop bleeding, they go down. It's like, that's you get the painful, tense breasts
Mhm.
and they go down again. But some cysts stay full and it's like a balloon under tension. It's really sore. They're not harmful. They're just painful. They are the quickest, simplest thing to drain. It involves putting a very small needle into them, taking out the fluid. It takes a couple of minutes. It may be a tiny sharp scratch, a couple of seconds, a very sharp scratch just to pop the needle in, but then it's done, the pain's gone, the pressure's gone, end of. You don't need to get anything done if you can live with the pain and you're happy with it. It can be scary, the thought of having them drained, but actually it makes a lot of women feel more comfortable afterwards. But you could go to the breast clinic and say, actually, I'm really scared about having this done. Can you explain it to me? And then you can say, well, actually, I don't want it done today, but now I know what's going to happen in the future. So maybe next time I'll be ready. We all are in fear of the unknown. And we go online and we see scary stuff and we make things up on our head and build it to a bigger and bigger and bigger thing. But actually, the reality is often far less scary or painful than you're thinking.
Thank you so much. And Ruthie, Pegs21 stated thank you. And she said, he or she said they'll get it done.
Yeah.
My question was going to be, are there any emerging treatments or advancements in breast cancer care that you're excited about?
There are loads. So I'm going to just grab my book. Hold on. I wrote a breast cancer book 8 years ago, and I've just updated it, The Complete Guide to Breast Cancer. 20 new drugs in the last 7 years. It is incredible. A lot of them for triple negative and HER2 positive disease, which we know is more likely to spread. But even last night, there's a new drug for ER positive metastatic disease that's been shown to double the length of time people have before the cancer grows. Science is incredible. We are looking at HER2 cancer vaccines. We are looking at liquid biopsies to try and test metastatic disease earlier. Seriously, there's breakthrough after breakthrough after breakthrough. And I think more and more people will be living with, more and more people will be cured. The cancer cure rate has doubled in the last 10, 20 years. People are living longer and longer and longer. 99% of people are meant to make it to 5 years after a diagnosis, which is amazing. And we're getting people living for 10, 15 years with metastatic disease instead of the 2 or 3. So I am really, really hopeful for the future.
And will all of that information be in your upcoming book?
Yes. So a lot of it's in this book, The Complete Guide to Breast Cancer, with all the latest drugs. And then on Instagram, I post reels about the latest research, so you can go and find out what's happening. It's really, really exciting. Although I wish I never had a job, and I wish this disease didn't existed. And there's so much we don't know. So you said earlier, B, we don't know why it's becoming more common in younger women. Some of it will be lifestyle related, because we know that being overweight, heavy drinking, eating an unhealthy diet, not exercising, do increase your risk a bit. We don't know why women in the African American communities aren't doing as well. There may be genetic things we don't know. So I hope as genetic testing improves, we'll be able to say, like, maybe, actually there's a test in the UK doing saliva checks of women in their 30s to say, do you have any mutations that might put you at an increased risk, so we can start screening earlier. So it is.
No, and that's
good news.
That's the most necessary testing. Yes, definitely everyone who is watching, I can't express or stress this enough. Definitely get genetic testing. Most certainly, if you have concerns, please speak up early. Don't be afraid to feel like it's going to be.
We'd offer genetic testing if you have a family history of breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
1 or 2 relatives in their 40s or 50s, and there may be a gene in the family, so go and do it. I think what we're now starting to look at is test women who are diagnosed to see if there's anything else. But I can see Jeremy Mercer's just pinned a question asking, what is metastatic disease? Shall I answer that?
Yes, please.
So when we treat breast cancer, your surgeon removes the breast cancer with a rim of healthy tissue, and that's you technically cancer-free. But cancer cells are invisible to the naked eye. A 1 centimeter cancer can have 1 million cells, and there may be cells that are left up behind that we can't see, or cells that have left the cancer and have wandered off into the bloodstream, because cancer, it can invade. That's what happens. Now, most of those wandering cells will either fall asleep and never wake up, or they die, or they get destroyed by your immune system, or chemotherapy, radiotherapy, hormone blockers will kill them. But what can happen is those cells just slowly grow in the background, and they either develop resistance to the drugs you're given, or they wake up 10, 20, 30 years later and start to spread, and they set up home in your liver, your lungs, or your bones. That happens in about 20 to 30% of people, and it can happen 30 years in the future. And that means you have stage 4 metastatic or advanced breast cancer, and it means it can be treated, but it can't be cured.
And that is a hard conversation. I thank you so much for answering that question. What is one piece of advice you would offer to someone recently diagnosed with breast cancer?
Oh, you're not alone. I think that's the first thing. I didn't meet another patient in the flesh, and I told Twitter I had breast cancer, and I suddenly found 100 people who told me how to cope. There are so many amazing support forums and networks out there, because I think you need to talk to other women and men who get what you're going through. My husband couldn't get it. He thought I was having an affair because I was tweeting people at 3 o'clock in the morning. They can't understand what you're going through.
Yeah.
They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to hear the crazy thoughts in your head. And I think reaching out to other people. So breastcancer.org have forums for women having chemo in January. You know, you can find people, and sharing that stuff and knowing you're not alone can really, really, really help. I would also say that you don't need to share your life on social media, and you can take a break. Especially in October, it's been Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I've been running a separate campaign called Lean on Us to get away from all the triggering, because it can be really hard when it is everywhere. You can't compare your journey to anyone else, because breast cancer is unique and is treated uniquely. So if your friend is having this and someone else is having that and you're not, don't worry. And I would say that most people will be cured and will go on to live incredible lives, and it is possible to turn it around. I was in the depths of despair, imagining my own funeral during chemotherapy, thinking there's no point planning a year ahead because I'll be dead. It's natural to have those thoughts. But I am happier and stronger and more fulfilled, because it kind of gave me another purpose, another way to help people. But actually, I've realized the importance of life. and I have hobbies and I do stuff with friends and I'm looking after me, and I've learned to become a bit selfish and say, no, this is my time. And I think I'm a better person because of the lessons cancer taught me. And yes, I wish I'd never learnt them, but in a way, I'm kind of glad I realized at 43 what life is actually all about, rather than 65 when I retired.
No, absolutely, and I commend you for that. And there's nothing wrong with having that because I'm a curious person too. So there's nothing wrong with having like that curiosity of okay, like so what does it feel like going through chemo and
Yeah.
or the ups and downs and things like that. So from your experience of now, have gone through chemo and have had the experience of it going away, coming back, going away. How do you feel now, or how do you view going through that process of chemo now?
So actually on my website, if you just put my name into Google, I blogged all the way through chemo, trying to tell people what it was like without being sensationalist or extreme or exaggerating, and all the tips I found that could help. And again, they're all in the book, what to do and what to take. There are lots of people saying, it's like, so chemo is given in cycles. You have the dose, you let your body recover, and then we hit you again. Some people have it every 3 weeks. Some people have it every week. I had it 3 weekly, and it's like drinking 10 bottles of wine a night and then having a week to recover. The worst hangover of your life, the worst flu. Everything hurts, everything's horrible, you have no energy. But then you have 2 okay weeks, and then you go again. And it's really hard, but you know there's an end in sight. You know in 5 months it's done, you'll get through it. I can't remember what it was like now. I look back at pictures of me bald and miserable and I don't recognize myself, but I can't remember it. You'll get through it. There's lots of information telling you what to take, what to drink, what to exercise, how to look after yourself. And the nurses are great at helping you. It took me 5 years to not wake up thinking, is today the day my cancer comes back? Because I just had that fear. Every cough, is it a cough or is it a cough I need to worry about? And is this a headache or is it brain mets? Because that fear is real. And it's taken time for me to stop worrying and to stop looking at metastatic blogs. And it was scary when my cancer came back locally. It's hard actually because there are very few people who have local recurrences. Only about 3% of patients. There are no trials, there are no networks, there are no loads of people to talk to. You feel quite alone. And so I'm now on treatment for life to stop it becoming metastatic, fingers crossed, which isn't nice. But I've realized that we're all going to die. We don't talk about death. Think of all the coaching you get to give birth, but there's nothing for death. We don't talk about it. It happens to all of us. It was only when my cancer came back the first time that my husband and I actually did our wills, because he was so scared of me dying, he couldn't talk about it. And I've now kind of realized it's out of my control. I could die tomorrow of a heart attack. My dad suddenly died a couple of months ago. I could live for another 40 years. I have no idea what the future holds. All I can do is live every day the way I want. And that's not bucket lists and making it all sunbeams and rainbows, because the bins still need emptying and there's days where you feel miserable and scared. But I can't control that. I can take my tablets, I can exercise, I can try and eat a healthy diet most of the time, because we all need ice cream and cake. But it took 5 years to get to that point, and now I kind of stop worrying about it. Yes, when I get a niggle, I'm terrified. And oh God, my oncologist is going to think I'm mad because I'm annoying her again, and I'm sure it's nothing. But I've learned your doctors are paid to worry about you. And if you've got a niggle or a worry or a fear, no matter how ridiculous, just tell someone and get it checked out, because that mental stress is awful. So if you're worried going about a symptom, go and get it checked out, and then think, okay, I'm all right until the next time. But it's hard.
It is, and I wanted to touch on a few things you just mentioned. Definitely, as a patient, sometimes we do feel like we pester or we are agitating our oncologists
Yeah.
because we're worried.
Yeah.
And it is as simple as just saying, hey, so these are the things that are really concerning me, and I want you to give me peace of mind. A lot of times we're actually fearful of
Yeah.
just really stating what it is that we really need to put our minds at ease. And I really hope that that stigma stops and people become more open and more vulnerable and more confident in speaking up and advocating for themselves to their oncologists and say, hey, you know what? Yes, you just saw me a few days ago. I just really need you to put my mind
Yeah.
at ease. Can you check again?
So I think going to see your doctor with a list of questions can help.
Mhm.
And you give that to them first before they start talking. This is what I need to go through whilst you've still got the confidence. I love it when people bring me questions because that consultation is for the two of you. Often writing it down, so putting it in the diary, so you're actually telling yourself this is real, can help. And actually thinking, what would, if my mum told me that she had this, what would I say to her? Talking to a friend, look, you go and get it checked. The mental pain of worrying is hard. And then when you do get referred, you then worry, oh my goodness, it might be serious. And then they do a scan and think, oh my goodness, it's really serious, I'm going to die. They're just doing the scan to make sure it's nothing. So that awful. And then when it's good news, it can be really hard because you are prepared for your cancer to have come back and they say you're fine. You think, oh, that's great, but I might have to go through this again. It's a really weird roller coaster, but we've got enough shit to worry about. Your doctors are there for you. Cancers can come back between scans and between appointments. If you've got a new symptom, you could put it in your diary and set a reminder in a week's time. Is it still there? Has it gone away? Can I explain it? Am I worried? Yes, I'm going to call to get it checked out. And you say, I'm worried my breast cancer has come back. Doctors are used to this. We want to help you. We don't want you worrying at home. I felt awful asking my doctor about a trial she didn't know about. You know, I don't like to be the patient who knows more, but actually we do, because we spend our life researching our cancer. They're looking after 100 or 200 people. So never feel bad about going in with research and questions. This is for you. It's the rest of your life we're talking about now.
So all of you out there in the comments section, did you hear what she said? Definitely show up with a list. Any worries or concerns, you're not bothering your oncologist, you're not bothering your physician.
You can't get that information online. You know, there's a lot of misinformation out there, people saying one thing, people saying another. They're not talking about you. You should never get medical information off the internet. Even me in my books, it's general. I'm not talking about you. The only person who can put your mind at ease is your doctor.
Absolutely. What does this comment say? It says the one thing cancer has stolen from me is my optimistic nature. I'm actually about to have my 4th chemo. BC this morning, so I'm in the thick of it.
Yeah.
Can't wait to be 5 years.
It's hard to feel optimistic during chemo. I don't think you can. The only thing I look forward to is crossing off each cycle, thinking that's another one done. It's just a shit place to be. Sometimes booking little treats for your good days can help. Oh, I'm going to have a massage today. I'm going to see a friend for a cup of tea that I can't taste. But chemo is not a time to be optimistic. You've just got to knuckle down and get through it. And then you think, okay, it's done. Now think about the next month and then the next month. It will come.
Okay. And also, I wanted to ask you, what do you think are some common misconceptions about breast cancer, both in terms of prevention and treatment?
Ooh, how long have we got? So again, this is all going to be in my next book. So my next book, The Cancer Roadmap. So I had no idea how much misinformation there was as a breast cancer surgeon. And then I started talking about this online and people send me clips every day and I could spend 24 hours a day debunking them. I think the common things about what causes breast cancer, the biggest reasons we get breast cancer are being a woman, because you have a lot more breast tissue than men, and getting older. When you're 30, your risk of breast cancer is 1 in 200 women. When you're 75, it's 1 in 25. And that's because the older you are, the more likely mutations are to happen in your cells as they divide and replicate, they get old, mistakes happen. Can still happen in young people, but it's rare. We know that drinking more than the recommended guidelines of alcohol can increase your risk, as well as being obese and overweight. And it's hard. Obesity is a very complex thing, but we do know that. And not exercising increased your risk by about 20 or 30%. Now, that's still a very small effect. If your risk is tiny, a 20% increase is still tiny. But if you take 1 million women, it has a bigger effect. Things that don't cause breast cancer: deodorants. People believe that deodorants and antiperspirants block your sweat glands, which stop toxins releasing so they build up in the breast. It's nonsense. People believe that underwide bras cause breast cancer because the underwide bra compresses your breast tissue and stops toxins building up and breast cancers form. Breast cancers have got nothing to do with toxins. Your breasts don't have toxins, your lymph glands, it's all nonsense. But there are books and companies selling wire-free bras. You know, it's safe. You can wear what you like. Bras are completely safe. Chemicals and parabens and endocrine disruptors. This is the latest thing. So people are telling us that there are preservatives in our cosmetics and toiletries called parabens that can cause cancer. And what parabens are is natural preservatives, and they're found in blueberries and grapes and soil. We also make them, and what they do is they stop bacteria and mold growing in your makeup and moisturizer. We need, because my hand isn't always clean when I get some face cream out of a jar. You know, do you wash your hands thoroughly before you put your moisturizer on?
Yes.
So what they do is they stop bacteria and fungi growing, and they make the shelf life 6 months to a year. And they are tested, they are safe. People, what if you absorb if you give parabens to cells in a lab or to mice, they can act like estrogen, which is where the term endocrine disruptor comes from. These are chemicals that can mimic estrogen that disrupt your natural hormone levels. Sounds really, really scary.
It does, actually.
The strongest paraben in your toiletries is 10,000 times less potent than the pill. Okay. And the contraceptive pill only increases your risk of breast cancer by a tiny, tiny amount. They are 10,000 times less potent than the natural estrogen you make anyway. And when you absorb parabens in your skin, 99% of them are broken down to inactive compounds. But Sephora now have paraben-free beauty aisles, and people go, oh, parabens, endocrine disruptors, sounds scary. Spend a load of money buying our chemical-free products.
Yes.
To save you getting cancer. It's nonsense. And the problem is, the alternative to parabens are acids like folic acid and formaldehyde. Not folic acid, formaldehyde. Suddenly not so natural. Grapeseed oil can cause serious allergic reactions and interfere with drugs. And they only stop fungi growing, they don't stop bacteria. So they're more likely to become contaminated if your hands aren't stringently clean, and the shelf life is going to be a lot less because they're more likely to get contaminated. People are making money off vulnerable patients and vulnerable people who don't want to get cancer.
I do agree with that. And I look at it as a marketing ploy. So to say, hey, these things are causing cancer. So I suggest you purchase this because it is free of these things when the information is out there that these things actually do not cause cancer.
And there are lobbying groups who say there are 15,000 chemicals and heavy metals in our products that are poisoning us. It's all nonsense. The amount you absorb is far, far less than what you get from your natural diet, but we're scared and we're spending money. Buy the products if you love them, you like the branding, you think it's good for the environment, but don't do it because you think it's going to stop you getting cancer. Another thing, a big one, is sugar. And I did a video saying that sugar doesn't cause cancer, and I get a load of death threats on YouTube because it's really strong. So a lot of people believe, functional medicines, doctor like Mark Hyman and Thomas Seyfried believe that sugar causes cancer. And it's because we have faulty mitochondria. This is what they say. They believe that we have faulty mitochondria, and they're like the little powerhouses in your cells. And they are faulty because we don't look after ourselves. Our negative thoughts, our bad diet, how we act damages our mitochondria, and that causes cancer. And cancer cells use a lot more sugar for energy than your normal cells. So they think, well, sugar's causing cancer, we should ban sugar from the diet. It's based on good research interpreted badly. That doesn't mean what they say. Every cell in your body needs sugar to survive. And if you quit sugar from the diet, we just use proteins and fats. And the problem is, you may think he's talking about donuts and cakes, which are sugar. But every carbohydrate, every fruit, nut, seed, vegetable, pea, bean is broken down to sugar, glucose in its basic form. So to cut sugar from the diet, you would have to only eat meat or tofu. And that's really, really unhealthy and it's dangerous. So there is no evidence that sugar causes cancer.
So we have a question at the bottom. It states which
aromatase inhibitor is the best. I've done a video on this, and anastrozole and letrozole work pretty much the same. It all depends on what your oncologist is more used to dealing with, the side effects they're more used to. One isn't really better than the other. We save exemestane for metastatic disease because of trial information that we have. But they both work pretty much the same, and it's fine to chop and change if you're struggling with the side effects on one.
Thank you so much. And Claire, that was actually a great question. I also wanted to ask you as far as like how family and friends best support someone going through breast cancer treatment based on your experience.
Love that. I was the first person in my network to be diagnosed with cancer. And I didn't know what help I needed. And people don't know what to say. They don't know how to help you. You can feel really alone and isolated. Friends ghost you. I've lost really, really good friends, but discovered amazing ones. I think the thing, if you're helping someone go through it, remember they are a person. They're not a cancer patient. So don't talk to them about cancer all the while. They want to know what's going on in Netflix and the gossip. We need that. Depending on the treatment they're going through, it can be really exhausting. You have no energy. And I think one of the nicest things you can do is just send them a daily text or a WhatsApp. Just thinking of you, you don't need to reply. Because often you don't have the energy to type, but actually just knowing, oh, they're thinking about me. That's lovely. That's really nice. Send them a card through the post just to say, saw this, I'm thinking of you. It's so nice getting a card instead of a bill or a flyer. So just those little things like that can make a huge difference. My uncle in Scotland sent me a card every Friday for 3 years, just telling me about the birds in his garden. When it comes to chemo, I now know what I needed. At the time I didn't. I didn't want to ask for help because I didn't want to be vulnerable and people don't want to butt in. But I would love someone to come and change the sheets on my bed because I'm dripping like hell with the menopause. I want a sheet fairy. I'll come and change the sheets. Let me fill your freezer with food when you don't have the energy to cook. Can I mow the lawn? Not actually can I. I'm going to mow the lawn. I'm going to take your dog for a walk. I'm going to take the kids after school. We're all so polite. Can I? Oh no, I don't want to bother you, and then nothing happens. I actually just say, look, I'm going to do this for you. You can pay me back later. Thinking of little practical things that can help, and then little care packages. Buying them like cashmere socks or heated blankets or things just to make them feel nice, or a promise of a massage voucher when they're feeling better. Just those little things. I think if you're close to someone, it's worth saying, I don't want to talk about cancer all the while with you because I know you don't. But if you're having a tough time and you need to talk or just want someone to listen, I'm there. Just let me know today's one of the days that you're not fine and I'll be here for you.
Thank you. There was a question asking, is there any new treatments for triple negative?
Yes, there've been 5 or 6. And actually, if you go to my YouTube channel, Dr. Lizzo Reardon, I've got a 8 or 10 minute video on triple negative breast cancer and all the latest treatments and what they are. So you can find all that information there.
Another question was, what's the difference between HR and HER?
Great question. So a breast cells have lots of receptors on their surface and things stick on them and tell the cell to do stuff. Breast cancer cells can overexpress, produce lots of up to 3 different receptors. One is estrogen and one is progesterone, and they are hormone receptors, HR. We generally ignore progesterone because we don't treat it. It's like a double check, but it's basically an estrogen receptor, which means your cancer is hormone receptor positive if you have a lot of them. And that means we treat your cancer by lowering your levels of estrogen with drugs like tamoxifen and aromatase inhibitors. The third receptor they can produce a lot of is called HER2. It's a protein that stimulates the cell to grow, and about 20% of breast cancers produce lots of these receptors. And if you have them, it means we can target your cancer with drugs that stop that receptor working. And that's where all the Herceptin treatments come from.
And by any chance, do you have a video for HER2?
Yes, I do. So I've got a video all about Herceptin and Herceptin treatments on my YouTube channel. It's easier to find on YouTube because it's like a library and you can put it in as a search engine rather than scrolling back through my Instagram feed. But I explain what it is, why it's treated, all the different combinations, why you need chemo at the same time, what we give you if it comes back. So you can find all of that there.
We had another question from Rachel Winrow.
Yeah.
Where did it go?
Where's it gone? It's just disappeared. Rachel, oh, here we go. She was on tamoxifen for 5 years and now she's on letrozole for 5 years. I'm worried about what happens when I'm on nothing. What happens to the estrogen in my body? So we give you these drugs to reduce the risk of your cancer coming back. Most women, their cancer isn't going to come back. We know most cancers come back in the first couple of years, and that's why you're followed up for 5 years. If you make it to 5 years, your chance of being cured permanently are much, much, much higher. The drugs we give you, the tamoxifen, the aromatase inhibitors, have side effects. The tamoxifen has a very low risk of causing cataracts and heart disease and womb cancer. And the aromatase inhibitors can cause osteoporosis and weakening of the bones. They are quite serious side effects. So it's a balance. We weigh up the risk of the side effects against the benefit of reducing your cancer coming back. And we know if you make it to 7 or 10 years, the risk of your cancer coming back is even smaller. So the risks far outweigh the benefits, and it's not worth making you ill for the sake of a cancer that probably won't come back. So that's why we stop them. But it's scary when you stop the tablets, because you think, what now? Your estrogen levels return to where they would be for the time in your life. So if you're menopausal, you will start making a little bit in your fat. So you may feel a bit better from the menopausal symptom side of you. And you just have to hope that the breast cancer cells are dead and they're not going to come back. And this is out of your control, except it's not. Because there are 3 things that you can do to keep that risk of recurrence low. You can reduce it by another 30% if you, and you're going to hate me for saying this, exercise 5 times a week, aerobic and resistance training. You keep alcohol down to a minimum, ideally 7 units a week or less. You eat a healthy plant-based diet, and you try and keep your weight down, which I know is hard. But we know all of these things can further reduce the risk of recurrence. And after that, it's out of your control. It's really scary, but it's like, well, I've had the best medicine can offer me. I'm going to try and go on and live my life, but be aware that it can come back in the future. So any new ache or pain, you must go and get it checked out.
Another big question, I think it's really empowering to hear most cancers don't come back because, of course, when you are on this journey, your social media is flooded with stories.
And that's the thing. Young women are talking about breast cancer on Instagram, whereas our grannies aren't.
Mm-hmm.
And we know for some reason young women can have a different disease to their grannies. Young women can often have more aggressive disease. They're more likely to have triple negative, which can come back more often than the hormone positive that their grannies are getting. It's everywhere. Bad news makes good headlines. We don't hear women saying, oh my God, I'm cured, because you don't know you're cured really until you die of something else. So you just feel, oh my God, it's doom and gloom, but it's not. 70 to 80% of women with breast cancer are not going to die of it. We're just not shouting from the rooftops because you don't know until you're dead. I think that's really hard. So take that recurrence as, yes, this is really shit. And I feel sorry it's happened to her, and I don't know how to cope with the feelings, but I know I'm still here, and there are things I can do to reduce the risk of it happening to me, and I can just switch off. I stopped following all the metastatic breast cancer charities and accounts for about a year because it was too bad for me. Now in distance, I can go back to try and support them, but I didn't need that in my life. And you can feel guilty that you're not doing enough to help them, but it's not your fight. It's not your cause. It may never be your cause. I hope it is, and that's all right. And if anyone's got metastatic disease, listening, I don't want to make you cross, because you need all the help you can get. But I think for people newly diagnosed, it can be really scary to be surrounded in that world that might never affect them, and it can bring them down. So it's just finding the right tribe for you and the right accounts to follow for you.
Absolutely. I know you mentioned earlier, especially here in the States where we celebrate or bring awareness to breast cancer. Do you feel as if, as a patient, that that could be triggering for a lot of women who are survivors or are currently going through?
Yeah. So it's funny. I think Breast Cancer Awareness Month is not aimed at patients. It's aimed at the general public to try and get them to check their breasts. Most women don't. There are a load of gadgets coming on with ultrasound probes and silicone strips. It's all nonsense. We don't check our breasts. We should do it every month. I never did. And I think raising awareness of the symptoms and getting it checked out is really, really important. But Breast Cancer Awareness Month isn't for patients. There's pink stuff, pink hair dryers. There's my dog barking at the door. Pink hair dryers. Well, I've lost my hair during chemo, and I can't wear a pretty pink bra because I don't have a breast. It's not for us. So that's why I did this Lean On Us campaign, to say it's okay to switch off in October. And maybe challenge the pink washing. Go to companies. You're selling this pink pen, but how much is going to charity? And actually, is it going to a generic charity into a pot, or is it going into a research fund? I would rather give money to my local breast unit that is doing something to help patients. They get it swallowed up and you don't know where your money has gone. And if people are wearing pink and having fun at an event, are they really putting money in a tin for research, or is this just a social media opportunity? And there are some great, Estee Lauder puts loads of money into research on their products. They're really, really good. But I think a lot of it's a cash cow. And I think we need to raise awareness of all the different types of breast cancer, but actually, where's the money going to research? Why aren't we counting the people with metastatic disease? Where is the money for new drugs? How are we helping us live with the side effects? Where is the help for our mental health going through all of this? And I think what we can do is challenge these companies and products and say, well, okay, you've got this new jumper. So I've got so many people come to me saying, can we do a collab? Can we give you a free sweater? Can you post it on your post? And yes, they want to use me for my profile. You know,
Mhm.
here's a tough titty sweatshirt you don't need. Can we give you one for free? And you'll say how great we are. Well, I don't need another sweatshirt. And then I say, well, how much of the profit from this sweatshirt is going to charity? Well, 5% of our net profits. Really? That's I'd rather you gave £1,000 to research and didn't make a sweatshirt nobody needs. And I think it's up to all of us to hold these people to account.
No, you're
That was a
absolutely
long
right.
rambling answer. I'm sorry, but I
No,
didn't
but
get it until I
it
was
needed to
posted.
be said.
It
It
does.
needs to be said because you're absolutely right. So we do the Susie G. Komen race for the cure. We do
Yeah.
a lot of different here, things to help to bring awareness, but we never challenge. We never ask, well, how much of this is going to research?
Yeah.
Is this going to survivors? Going to their family, things of that. So we never challenge it. We
Yeah.
never even
Or
question
is
it.
it
To be honest with you.
going to help you organise the next race? But I also, this is good. My mum died of bone cancer. She had her arm amputated, and it was Bone Cancer Awareness Week in October, because rare charities get a day or a week, they don't get a month. And I'm the patron of the charity. I think it's really hard getting every charity, every cancer, to get the same amount and support, because rare cancer, there are 160 bone cancers diagnosed a year compared to 160 breast cancers a day in the UK. And I'm suddenly aware that I'd love if what happened during COVID, when everyone worked together to create a vaccine really quickly, cancers could share their research for the greater good. There are so many people with breast cancer and it's amazing, but how can that filter down for the brain cancers and the leukemias that children get? It's a really weird place to be when you're suddenly got lots of people talking to you about cancer. And I just think it's that we need to raise awareness about all of it. And what we should be doing is going into schools and universities and teaching people you should check yourself from head to toe once a month. So this will freak you out. Did you know that if you flush the toilet after you've had a poo with the lid open, that the spray of water droplets can go up to 6 feet in the
Oh
air?
my God, yes. And the first time I heard about
How
that, I was just like,
many of you have your
not
toothbrush
at all.
next to the toilet? But the thing is, if you think that's gross, I'm going to close the lid. When you close the lid, you look at your poo, you look at your wee for blood. Simple things like that. Getting a mirror and checking your genitals, because you can get vaginal and vulval cancer. Looking in your mouth, because smoking and alcohol can cause mouth cancer. Getting your moles, just like a monthly top to toe. Because cancer is becoming more common, and I think we need to get everybody just checking themselves, because the earlier it's caught, the better your chance.
Yeah, absolutely right. And it's very important to check yourself. You're right, from head to
Yeah.
toe, from head to toe, no matter how small, how big, lump, bruise, scratch, whatever, just get it checked out. And
Yeah.
I do know what you mean as far as like there are all sorts of cancers that pop up daily. And it is kind of it's just kind of discouraging that they would only get a week and not a month. But I don't honestly believe that it should just stop at a month. I do believe that breast cancer awareness and awareness to any cancers or any illness
Yeah.
should be year long.
Exactly. People are diagnosed every day. And for the people diagnosed in October, it's really triggering because it's everywhere. You know, I was lucky I was diagnosed in July, where I wasn't all over the media, but often the last thing you want is to be surrounded by it when you're getting your head over it. It's a really interesting thought about what the best way of doing is. But if we can get more women checking themselves and going for the mammograms and the screening, then that's a good thing.
No, absolutely. And I have noticed here in the United States, they are becoming more proactive about having younger women as early as their 20s doing their self breast checks, what to
Brilliant.
feel for, things of that sort. And it does feel weird at first. I'm not even going to lie to you. It's super weird at first, but like after a while, you kind of do feel things. You notice the change in your breast between the tissues, cysts,
Yes.
and things of that sort. You say, okay, I didn't remember feeling that last time. What changed? Did I eat something different? Am I exercising less? Am I sleeping less? I just need to go get this checked out.
Yeah,
And it's just
exactly.
being proactive and knowing your body and knowing the changes that are happening in your body.
I would say there's a lot of noise at the moment that mammograms are dangerous. there are some big influencers saying mammograms are dangerous, they cause breast cancer, you shouldn't have them. Mammograms are safe. Yes, they can cause cancer, but very, very, very rarely, in about 1 in 30,000 women. And that's if you have all your mammograms for 20, 30 years. They are safe. A lot of alternative companies are flogging thermograms. You might have heard of them. It's using infrared imaging to scan the breasts. They're saying, well, we can't mammogram young women. Women in their 20s can go and pay for a thermogram, we'll tell you you're normal. It's nonsense. They're not backed by the FDA. There is no evidence to prove they can detect breast cancer. The thing is, mammograms are done to detect cancer when it's tiny, when it's so small you can't even feel it. Thermograms work on thermal imaging. So they're assuming that if you have a big cancer full of blood vessels in your breast, it's really hot because of all the blood, the thermography will see it. Well, A, breast cancers aren't very vascular. They don't have a really big blood supply. And the whole point of screening is to pick them up at a tiny stage. So if they're big enough to see on a thermogram, they're probably big enough to feel. There is no evidence behind them. Please save your money. Don't go. They are falsely reassuring. There is no proof that they work.
And thank you so much for mentioning that, because that is a big misconception as of late.
So I think
that mammogram causes cancer.
The problem is, when you are young, before the menopause, your breasts are dense. They look white. Mm-hmm. They look white on an X-ray. Mm-hmm. And cancers look white on an X-ray.
Yes.
So if your breasts are very dense, it's hard to see something white on this white background. When you get into your 40s and 50s, your breasts soften and they look black. So you've suddenly got black breast tissue with a little white cancer you can see. That's why we don't do mammograms in women under the age of 40, because they just won't see them. But also, the pick-up rate is so small because so few young women get breast cancer compared to women in their 50s and 60s. Ultrasounds are okay, but they're not a great screening tool, because with an ultrasound, you have to go up and down, millimeter by millimeter. Then you have to go to side. And if you've got a big breast, it can take a long time. Then you have to do the other. There are no images. They're not a good screening tool. They're good for looking at lumps. There just isn't anything better than a mammogram, and it's not worth screening the whole of America because the pickup rate is so small. And we also know in the UK, only 1/3 of women are going for their first mammogram. So if we can't get women in their 50s going for a mammogram, young women aren't going to go. We're all busy, we work. So it's a long-winded story, but that's why there isn't anything we can do for young women. Don't spend your money on thermograms.
Thank you so much for that. And we are at the top of our time. Did you want to take a moment to just share how all of our followers or our viewers here can reach out to you and also purchase your book?
Yeah, I will do. So thank you so much. This is going to sound really flashy. If you just put my name into Google, you will find me. My website is liz.o'riordan.co.uk. I'm on Instagram as O'Riordan Liz, and my YouTube channel, Dr. Liz O'Riordan, has all my videos. And you ask me a question, I will reply. This is the best-selling book around the world, The Complete Guide to Breast Cancer. It's available on Amazon.com as well as UK. It has all the questions I had because I bought 20 books written by patients. It explains what happens to you, why it happens. We talk about sex and mental health and diet and exercise. And it's also great to give to your family so they can understand what's happening to you, because often it's hard for you to be a doctor as well. I did also write a memoir, Under the Knife, talking about what it was like being a female surgeon in a man's world, learning to operate, all the funny stories, and then becoming on the other side of the knife as a breast cancer patient. So that'll tell you a little bit more about me. And it's been great to talk to you all today. And thank you for being up so early in the morning. I feel really sorry, B.
No, absolutely. And thank you so much. You actually put my mind at ease, as I just went to the ER 2 days ago because my sister's giving me issues. And of course, they didn't give me anything for it. They just say, hey, pain management, but they never explained as to why they're just treating the pain and not actually doing an ultrasound or anything like that. So what you stated to me tonight during this conversation helped put my mind at ease. And I just wanted to thank you for your time and your knowledge. And I am going to go get your book, by the way. But yes.
Thank you so much. It's been great. And enjoy the rest of your day or night or afternoon, everybody.
Yes. Thanks so much for your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. We'll talk soon.
Definitely. Thanks a lot, B. Bye.
Bye.